evening and welcome to Resolutions for Recovery. This show is dedicated to the education and empowerment for all people struggling with substance use disorder. However, I think in today's world, we all have to find a place where we can be tolerant and accepting and compassionate to all people struggling with whatever it is that they're struggling with. And today, my special guests are Danielle Brushy and Lauren McNamara, who you guys rock. So you have established sober living facilities for women and are running really so many programs within there to help women step up and get ahead. And, in light of what happened in Blue Point and the discrimination, really, that was shown to Seafield there, and really not recognizing what an epidemic we're in. You can't say and recognize we're in an epidemic and then say, no, treatment doesn't belong in our neighborhood, because our children will be kidnapped and molested by patients. Like, it's beyond my scope of really comprehension. So to know that you are empowering women, because what I've learned really through people struggling with recovery, I think it's done best when you are with your own, women are with women, men are with men, because there's a lot of trauma that's involved through everyone's life. And when you can talk openly and freely with members of the same sex that really do recognize what you're going through. Because we can all say that, but men and women think very differently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me, how did this vision come to be?
So back in 2013, both Lauren and I were working with the homeless population for a single men's shelter on the East End. And working with that population, and for the men, when you think of a homeless shelter, I could say the word homeless shelter in a room full of 30 people, and you're going to get 30 different associations with that word of what a homeless person looks like and why they're there. But I can tell you, in working with these individuals coming in, housing first. How can one really be stable if they don't have a permanent place to live? But what we really saw was people coming into the homeless shelter needing treatment. Yeah. And if they didn't need treatment, and not to say everybody, but a lot of the individuals, if they didn't need treatment, what they really needed at the time, or what they were looking for, was safe, sober living. And there was really a lack of resources. And with those lack of resources available for men at the time, during that time period, there was really nothing available for women, yeah. Separate from the other good, sober living environments that were around during that time. So that's really, when we started, talking about the idea of New Hope Rising. It's something that we both always really wanted to do.
I love the name.
Thank you.
I love the name. Because what we always have is hope.
Yeah.
We always have hope. That's really all we can always cling to and hope for.
Absolutely.
So, and really in light of that there is no laws governing sober living. So it can be very frightening. And we've lost so many people in facilities that are run by really landlords that don't give a hoot what goes on in their house. They're just taking somebody's Social Security disability payments or money for nothing. And that's not safe for anybody. So you're dealing with such a population that is in the early days of recovery. They're scared, they're anxious, they're trying to figure out who they even are, right? Detoxing from everything that they're in. So, and women, we were just talking about this last week. Women who struggle with substance use usually have an underlying trauma that is usually or can be sexual. So a very vulnerable population.
One of the reasons why, we created our women's program first is, of course, because of the lack of resources for women, but also to have, a special place where they can go, where it is safe, it's clean, it feels like a home. You walk in the first time and you feel like you're not in a facility, but you're in a place where people live and where people are healing. and just even talking about like the name New Hope
Yeah.
Rising, and talking about stigma within the community still, to this day, even knowing like the epidemic that we're up against, is that there is recovery and that there is hope. Yes, like active addiction is one piece of the puzzle, but there is hope in recovery, and that's what we really try to focus on, is some of the, the positive things that people are doing every day. There are people every day that are recovering and that are really,
Yes.
changing their entire lives.
So the other day, in social media, Steven Tyler gives commencement to a drug court graduation. Well, wow, everybody says, oh, wow, look at Steven Tyler. See, there are everyday heroes right here on Long Island that are recovering from addiction. And Jim, oh, now I can't, I'll think of the last name. He owns Veritas Villa. Wrote a book, Trouble is the Gift. If you can get through addiction, there's nothing that you can't ever get through. If you can recover and maintain sobriety, there's nothing that you can't accomplish in life. And I think we have to remember. So what a great thing that these women, if they're moms, that their children can come and visit them in a safe environment, clean environment, and be loved by so many other women, right? Be,
That's one of the biggest gifts I have
Scrunched.
to say, and I could remember this. It has to be coming up, I guess, on 2 years, when one of our female residents, her son was actually at the house visiting her, and he called it the Get Well House. And I really, when he said
that just gave me the chills.
that's really what it is,
Yes.
Our, female residents, and we do have 2 other male programs as well.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
see, I
So-
just learned something.
Yes, so it, when he said that, it really is. The people come there to get well with the common denominator, to recover, and to recover together. And it's just an amazing thing to see on a daily basis, that recovery is possible.
Absolutely. Do you see, so you're in a very structured, good program. So good is probably not the best word that I could use, but there are so many other sober living facilities that are quite the opposite. Do you see your rate of success higher than in some of those other houses? And it really has nothing to do with that, but I think sometimes when people feel safe, that takes a lot of.
I wouldn't feel comfortable saying one way
okay.
or another, because I don't know their rates. What I do know is what sets us apart from any other sober living program is that there are no regulations for sober homes,
Yeah.
Even with us. But what, again, sets us apart is that we are a nonprofit organization and that we do abide by, certain regulations as closely as possible. And we implemented, not, under any guidance, but we implemented on our own, a program structure that we wanted to follow. So with our own success rates, we've seen like over the years, the past 4 years, to proven to be effective, with a 4-phase program and with certain stipulations set into place to give people a fair chance, in the time that's needed, in early recovery.
Okay. So describe your program to me, because you just said 4 phases, so now I have to hear about the 4 phases.
So, initially coming into the program for the initial first 2 weeks, there is an orientation system in place. So there's a buddy system. So initially coming into the program, it's not just a situation where people can just come and go from the residence. If they're going to, let's say, just go run an errand or something like that, they would be accompanied by, another resident who's already completed that first,
Phase.
period.
Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, that's excellent.
Right. So at that point, it's really about working on their recovery goals. So, getting set up with outpatient treatment, starting to go to meetings, getting a sponsor, getting a home group, getting connected to, outside and outside supports, and also just building those healthy relationships in early recovery, building a sober support network. And then after that initial first 2-week period, they start to have a curfew. It's 11 p.m. through the week.
Okay.
And then as they move through the program, after the first 30 days, they're able to start having the opportunity to sleep out on the weekends.
Okay.
So that's twice a month. And then as they move through the program, the curfew extends on the weekends. They have more opportunities to sleep out, and they just have more responsibilities and privileges. And the purpose of doing that is so that they have the opportunity to, to kind of expand while they're with us, so that if on the weekend, they go home, they still come back to the safe, sober environment of the housing program, so that it's not just they're in this program and then they go home and then what happens? They're not prepared for things that may come up afterward. So it's really meant to be like a transitional program, like setting people up for success and long-term recovery.
What is your average length of stay then for?
For women,
Yeah.
between 9 and 12 months.
Oh,
And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, we do not have a high turnover rate for our women. We've had a wait list for a year now.
That's great.
Yeah, and when
You
I
need
say
another
wait
house.
list, yes, we have been searching for a year, and because of the stigma within the community, we have a great relationship with our neighbors. They actually, compliment us on our work, and our neighbors consist of retired police officers and teachers, and we're one of the quietest houses on the block.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
But we've had a wait list, consistently for a year, and it's a horrible feeling to have to turn, any one person away.
I love that it's 9 to 12 months because
Yeah.
my feeling, and I've spoken to really Oasis and the treatment providers, that we need to have better wraparound services when
Yeah.
somebody leaves after their big 14 days in inpatient, and we need to have these transitional, because the longer that we can really take their recovery, sustained recovery, surrounded by all of this, the higher the success rate is going to be. There's no doubt in my mind.
Absolutely. They can stay, in all of our programs, you can stay up to a year. It just, between all the time frames, added, over the years, the average length of stay happens to be between 9 and 12 months. But someone can stay as short as to, let's say the commitment of 4 months, depending, on the situation that brought them there and, where they would be returning to after they, decide to complete.
And I love that you just said that, because, so Lauren, I know, that you and I are family members that have been affected by substance use. And I've said, when my son was going into treatment, if someone had said to me, we need you to be here, 2 days a week, we're going to educate you on substance use disorder, we're going to help you to manage yourself and your other family members, not manage Thomas, the affected person, but, are you willing to do that? So you listen to a family member say, I'll be here 5 days a week. What do you need me to do to achieve, success? Or you're going to hear, that's not my problem. That's their problem. It has nothing to do with me. Then you already know that's not going to be a safe environment for them to return to.
I think what it really comes down to with families is even when, it comes out in that second way,
Yes.
where people say, well, that's not my problem. That's, that's their problem to handle. They just, stop using, everything will get better. But, I think what's really underneath all of that is hurt and fear.
Absolutely.
And anger, so it's, that's really an opportunity to make that family member feel like they're part of the process, feel like, someone is there for them as well as their loved one. I think a lot of times there's so many services and things that are available. We do need more,
Yes.
but there are things that are available for someone that's seeking recovery. But when it comes to the family, I think a lot of times they end up feeling like isolated and kind of left out of the process. So I think that family piece is so key, not only to their own health and well-being, but helping their loved one to actually sustain long-term recovery. When the family's part of the process, that's when you
Yes.
really see
Oh,
the success
absolutely.
rates really
And I think,
soar.
but you either have families that really want to participate, or you have families that truly feel that's not my problem. I'm not changing anything. I'm not locking my alcohol up. I'm not, I'm going to do what I want to do. It's my house, blah, and so on and so on. That's not a safe place. There could be other dysfunction going on in the family. That's going to come out very quickly. I love when you see, sometimes space and distance and being able to come and visit is the best way to mend, and talk about all of those hurts and fears in a safe environment. Thomas went to Nassau County Medical Center, their program, And it wasn't even his counselor that called up and said, would you come in? The two of them connected on a different level. And he said, I want you to tell your son how you feel. And when I got done, because I felt safe being able to say everything, he couldn't get up and run anywhere. And he was like, I never knew that that's how you felt. And it was so freeing for me, you know, and that's how you start to, because families, you walk on eggshells all the time. And it's, you know, we need to really wrap the family up in the siblings of the affected person, because they have voices that go unheard all the time. And that's scary for them because you don't want them to replicate the behavior
Exactly.
to get attention.
Yeah. And that's why, again, we really try to implement that family feel, you know, in all of our programs, and why we even have, you know, family programs actually brought into the houses. You know, even Beating Hearts actually comes to the houses on a monthly basis, and for the residents to actually like participate in that group, to see on the other side, the family side, it really is just a beautiful experience to be able to witness.
So the Beating Hearts is a group that's for parents that have lost children.
Yes.
So just so the audience knows,
Yeah.
so I do speak all over the place to
Yeah.
patients that are in for treatment,
Yeah.
and it is eye-opening for them because they have a little bit of sobriety. You know, they've come out of their fog a little bit, and they've never really realized what they did to their family, because substance use is very selfish. I'm only hurting myself. What do you care what I do?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of an attitude. And that's where they are in their process. So when they hear from the other side, it gives them, you know, the one thing you don't want them to feel is then shame and guilt and all of, you know, it can be fixed. We're going to work through all of this.
You
But
see the
acknowledge
healing,
it,
yeah.
own it, and then we can move through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me, where are your houses located? How many women's facilities do you have?
We have one female program, and then we have two male programs.
Okay.
The female program is located in Mastic.
Okay.
That program can accommodate up to 11 women, and then our
That's
two.
a big house.
Yes, yes, and then our male program, one of the male programs is located in Mastic Beach. That can accommodate up to 9 males. And then our other male, our professional male program can accommodate up to 8 males.
Excellent.
Yes. So
I just found out professionals, so doctors and pilots, are followed for 5 years. I just learned that. And their success rate of recovery, sustained recovery, is very high. Imagine that. They're followed for 5 years and their success rate is high. So maybe more than 14 days would be required. Crazy.
And that's the sad thing, you know, we see it all the time, you know, from individuals, whether they're coming from, you know, a 28-day inpatient program, which we know means, you know, 8 to 14 days,
Yes.
or a detox, you know,
Yes.
and to see them coming in that early on, you know, what would happen if they weren't returning, weren't coming to a sober living environment, you know, a safe,
would
supportive,
be-
sober living environment.
They're going to go, you know, we know what happens. You know, you have to be surrounded with services.
Absolutely.
You know, the maddening part is if you had diabetes or, so my sister-in-law, and I tell this story quite freely, she's, you know, not your typical, who you would think would get type 1 diabetes, which is the worst kind of diabetes. But nutritionalists, endocrinologists, nutrition, you know, everything was wrapped around her. People calling her all the time, how are you feeling today? You know, let's check. And substance use disorder, all right, you know, oh, well, you were dead for 4 minutes, but we got you back with Narcan. Okay, you're discharged. There's no, it's just so wrong. It's just so wrong.
It's horrific, and you know, it really just is, it's horrific, you know,
Yeah.
and seeing it and seeing, you know, what even our residents coming into our programs,
What
you
they've
know,
been
are
through.
facing, what they've been through. It just, again, it's horrific, and there are so many supportive services available, you know, in our community, but we need more.
We need more. We always need more. We always need more.
And it's like all
Absolutely.
the services and resources in the world could be available, but if insurance won't pay for it, if there's a wait list,
Yeah.
things like that. Even that 14 days fighting tooth and nail with an insurance company is just, when someone's asking for help, you don't have to have that same fight when someone has diabetes. It's like a full team, like caring for that
yeah.
person.
It's a
when
full
it comes to
team
something
on.
like substance use disorders, it is a completely different world. And people are often very shocked by that. A lot of people don't realize like what a fight it is just to get treatment.
Oh,
It's not
absolutely.
about everyone just saying, I don't want treatment, I don't want to do this, whatnot. Like there are people out there that are begging for help and
And
they're
they
not
can't
getting
get
it.
Yeah. And it's shocking because when you're you finally get into treatment, and then you kind of are, well, we're going to call and see if you can stay. So you're always waiting for the other shoe to fall.
Yeah.
Like I may have to leave today, just when I think I'm going to finally get help. So we know that the disease of addiction certainly whispers in your ear, see, you're not deserving of it. See, you're not good enough to get well. So let's go get high, because it's those voices are going to also start to speak to you.
Somebody sitting inside of a treatment center should not be worried about their review that they're having in 2 days and whether or not that they're going to, have to leave at that point.
Exactly.
After only being there for 7 days.
And too many people have burned so many bridges to go back home. And you can't blame the family, because the family is just trying to protect themselves and other children or other family members, whatever the case may be. There's no criticism or judgment of the family, but where do we put people? Because social services, if you don't have children, really, don't care if you're homeless or not. Go to the shelter, go to here, go to there, which you saw these men struggling. You're not homeless because of that's what you think is a good idea for the week to be. Most people would know, I need to get a job, I need to be able to rent a room, but when you're trying to get well, you can't even get that many things put together to get it done.
What we really focus on within our programs as well. So even too, how it's set up with all of our programs, all 3 of the programs, is that if somebody gets to us on a Monday, they start outpatient treatment the very next day with an OASIS licensed facility. So again, at least, if they've only had a short stay in a treatment center, at least they're continuing, with
Yes.
outpatient treatment, again, the very next day that they get to us. And part of, what you were just speaking about, even, with the homeless population, like employment and whatnot, for individuals in our program, initially coming in and building that initial foundation, working on their recovery goals, getting a sponsor, building a healthy, sober support group, and those, recovery-oriented goals. We work with them on moving forward on their other goals, whether that be employment, vocational services, so we do resume development, job readiness skills. We provide transportation to initial job interviews.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Referrals to higher level of education, whether that's resources to access VR, depending on what their goals that they're trying to work on at that time.
That's awesome, because you're restoring somebody's faith in themselves, their integrity, their self-esteem, which has been blown out of the water. But question for you, so during those first few weeks, do you just try to give them just don't worry about anything?
Yeah.
Just be, and just get through the next couple of days?
Yeah.
Because I saw it on my own son. I never, and again, I didn't know, should I be asking him to get a job?
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that was the right thing to do. Just, for one time in your life, and we hope that you have a very long life, you're allowed to be selfish and focus on yourself, not worry about anything else. You need to do your 90 meetings in 90 days with a 12-step fellowship. These are not things that are said arbitrarily either. It takes 30 days, right, to make a new habit.
And that's actually what we implement. That's why the orientation is a full 30 days. but the buddy system is only 2 weeks, because let me be very honest, it used to be 30 days. And it's a lot to ask somebody, because that would deter, family members want to hear that, treatment providers want to hear that, the addicted individual themselves do not want to hear buddy system for 30 days. I'm going to be very honest. So we tried to hit a middle ground there, where after 2 weeks, we're going to see, like, are you okay to leave, with people, places, and things without a buddy, where you're not initially walking out of the house and just being triggered and, just making an impulsive decision.
Yes.
You've had 2 weeks. And if it needs to be extended at that time, it could also be extended, dependent, on that person and how they're feeling in their own personal recovery.
So if they come to you and say, I don't trust myself to leave here without a buddy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Or if the buddy comes to you and says, I don't think they're ready.
Yeah.
So
If things are coming up, whether it be in the house with the house manager, all of our programs are staffed. They're not residents themselves. They are outside employees. So they do reside there.
okay.
They're not there 24/7, but they sleep there. They have their own private living quarters. They're Narcan certified. They're working professionals in personal recovery as well. So they're there to oversee the rules, regulations, but most importantly, I believe too, to provide guidance, support, and be a role model of an
Yes.
individual in long-term recovery and how to live a productive life.
Because what better
Yeah.
way to know that sustained recovery is possible?
Absolutely.
Gives you something to achieve towards.
Yeah.
And are you going to be able to bring any of the people to Thrive, the recovery center, or make,
Yeah, Crystal was actually supposed to be coming in this week until we all realized it's President's Day
Yes.
on Monday. So she's actually going to be coming this coming month is on some Monday to do a presentation with all of our residents.
That's
because it's
awesome.
amazing, what they've been able to do.
I think it's also just such a great way, especially for young people,
Absolutely.
to see that there's a place that I can go and hang out with my, people of my age and do things that we want to do in a sober
Absolutely.
way. We'll be right back after this message.
My age is 18 years old and my name is Evan.
My name is Sean and I'm 19 years old.
My name is Justin, I'm 16.
My name is Angelica. I'm 18 years old.
Marijuana, and I was 13 years old.
Marijuana, and my age was 13.
The first drug I ever tried was marijuana, and I was 12 years old.
It was marijuana and I was 11 years old.
Yes, and that escalated to promethazine, lean.
I began to take pills like Xanax, Percocets.
I began using other substances such as pills and alcohol.
I then went on to cocaine and pills and quickly progressed to heroin. I was 13 years old when I first started using heroin. I had aspirations of going to an Ivy League school, and that quickly, within a year or two, changed. I stopped going to my classes. I stopped going to school altogether eventually. All my friends were kind of just dropping me.
I started getting in trouble in school, eventually kicked out. I got in trouble with the law a lot.
I wasn't really hanging out with a lot of sober people. Just people that impatient, you can't just leave. You stay here and you have to deal with it. That's what I feel like a lot of kids need.
In a long-term facility, the counselors get to know the resident better, and they get to actually work with them more than in a short-term 28-day facility. And it really gives kids a chance to work on themselves rather than being rushed through a program, just to be thrown back into life, going back into the same old bad habits that they were doing before.
Coming in here, I couldn't believe how long I would have to be here, but after a couple months, talking to counselors, I kind of came to the realization that I need a lot of time and work to repair everything I've done.
The things that we get taught here, it really does help you in life and it gives you a different perspective. It's very important for a kid to have a family involvement in treatment so they don't think they're alone in this. We communicate on a better basis than how we used to. We understand each other more, and that was from the help of outreach.
They come every Wednesday night for support group. They come to a group every other week.
They come to parent support group to discuss their problems also. My relationship honestly has got a lot better, because I remember my mom used to never want to say anything to me because she would be scared of my reaction. I'm starting to realize in here, like, I really have to take advantage of the fact that I have her still.
When I was about 14 is when my parents realized that I had several different problems, such as behavioral issues, and the behavioral issues kind of stemmed from my drug use. I began caring less about myself and others. Outreach has really made me realize how important family is. If I was out of state in a program where my parents were not involved, I would have never been able to strengthen my relationship with them. My father told me that I've inspired him to make changes in his life, and that meant a lot to me. I've never heard my dad be inspired by something before, and I was just proud that it was me.
Welcome back to Resolutions for Recovery. And so we have Danielle. I'm going to say Bruchet. It's brushy, but I like that.
Yeah, I like that one
We've made
too.
you very unique tonight.
Yes, fancy.
And Lauren McNamara. And these are the founders, CEO, and COO of New Hope Rising, which is a not-for-profit. And they have 3 amazing sober living facilities. And so we're going to start off again with the stigma of sober living. So you made, a big statement before that your neighbors think you're the best house on the block, because most people hear sober living or, with any kind of disability housing, they think that somehow monsters are going to be appearing. So how do you fight that stigma?
We use it as an opportunity to educate.
Yeah.
It may be frustrating in the moment to hear, oh, we don't want that in our neighborhood.
Those people.
We don't want those people.
Yeah.
So it's really an opportunity for us to educate the community, to help people to understand and realize that people in recovery are already here. It's already in the community. They are your neighbors already. They are, your teachers, your friends, your loved ones, your family members,
Because it's not, the people are not shocked when they hear about bus drivers dealing drugs after they drop kids off. Or last year in Sag Harbor, the unfortunate of the teacher dying. And just recently in New York City, another teacher passed away. We should be compassionate for these people who are struggling with a demon that just, look how forceful that is. The best example is really about, 4 years ago? The actor, oh my gosh, the name just went out of my head. You remember?
I feel like there were so many.
There was so many, but he was sober for 22 years.
Yes.
It was 3 names. I can picture his face right now,
I
but
know. I can't
we'll think
remember
of his
what it was.
name.
Yeah.
But point being is he had 3 young children, money to go to treatment anywhere in the world, but the drugs won. The drugs won. So you can't say that he was despondent over his life, because he really, to the outside world, had the world at his feet. But the drugs won. I think that we should not call it sober living. I think I like get well housing.
I like that too.
I really do.
And we actually call our
Yeah.
programs recovery housing programs,
Yeah.
because it's not just about remaining, physically sober, but also leading a life of recovery.
Yes.
And just even being within the community, once, when we are in the community, in the houses that we currently operate, one of the biggest things, aside from just housing and giving people a place to live and giving people all these services, is also taking the opportunity that's been given to us to actually try to make a difference in terms of combating stigma within the community. So, showing people that this is what a person in recovery looks like. They look like everyone else, so giving the opportunity to really show, like, this is what recovery housing can be within a community. It can be an asset. It can be, a really
without a
positive
doubt.
force within the community. So we take that opportunity anytime that we can not only for our residents to feel part of the community that they're living in, but also to show other people that recovery is possible and that there is like hope and that there are people that are recovering, and that having a recovery home in your community can be a really positive
And
thing.
it's shocking when people say, oh, no, you couldn't have been an addict. Well, no, you know, if you had seen me X number of days ago, X number of years ago, now I'm a productive part of society. Yes, that was me. And I struggled. And so many more people, thankfully, are coming forward and being proud of that. You know, and anonymity is a personal decision. So, you know, and that's fine. But I think it's important to show, you know, if you're a cancer survivor, you wear that badge. You wear that medal, you wear it proud.
Absolutely. And again, like even with that stigma every day, you know, walking into those houses is just, we're inspired. You know, even today we actually have one of our female residents, she's celebrating her first year in recovery today. And I just, you know, this young woman, I mean, that's what inspires us on a daily basis, because you can get bogged down just by the loss, the tragic loss, you know, on a daily basis that we hear of, and not just, you know, with that loss, but also just the despair, you know, that we know the addicted individuals are facing and their loved ones. It's very easy to get bogged down in that. So we try to focus on like the hope and the recovery aspect, and not to say that we don't acknowledge all that despair and misery, because that's still very real.
Yeah.
But recovery and hope is also still very real. And part of like breaking that stigma is showing like the community that recovery is real, and it's right in your community, you know. And just even with that said, like I wouldn't be sitting at this very table, you know. I'm in long-term recovery myself, and it took me a really, really long time starting at a very young age to get where I am today. And again, like walking into the houses, you know, whether it be like our female house, or again, like even yesterday evening, and just touching base with like our staff members, all the gentlemen had a singing bowl meditation. And to know that the guys were all laying down and having like, you know, the Tibetan bowls ringing on them.
I love those too.
Amazing.
So relaxing.
Yeah.
But like
So
asking
relaxing.
for the woman to come back, and it's so incredible, you know, just walking into the house, the houses, and just seeing like people recovering on a daily basis, like, and just getting that hope back, you know, seeing them rebuild their lives, seeing them, you know, get their families back in their lives. You know, we have so many gentlemen right now that are single fathers that are able to be a parent today to their child.
Yeah.
So again, like breaking that stigma within the community. If you drove by like one of our houses, you wouldn't know that it was a recovery house. You wouldn't know all the hope and love, you know, what goes on, you know, beyond between those walls. And it's a beautiful thing. You know, if I was, you know, personally living on that block, I would rather live next to a recovery house, because we maintain, that's one of the most important things, is to maintain that respect within the community, you know, because that's really important to have. And it's something that we need
That's
to
everything.
have.
That's
Absolutely.
everything that you know, pride of ownership, and you're giving that, you're instilling that in your, you know, the people that live there. You're giving them a place to be proud of. They may not have had a home for a really long time, or feel safe, you know, and surrounded by people that care about them and where they're going and what they're doing. And that's priceless.
Absolutely.
That's priceless. Because with, you know, if you are all alone trying to do that, it can become way too overwhelming, and you become despondent. So I agree with you. You know, I think we've made some great strides in the past 4 years. So me coming from being an advocate and everything else, but it's so overwhelming when you hear of another family joining the club that no parent should ever belong to, and what I know that family is going to. But I do know this, that what you set your sights on, your mind will take you there. So if you want to go down into the pit, there's no point in going down there. It'll always be there. And I think it's so important for the community to remember that it's the heroin opiate epidemic now that has so much attention, but alcoholism is alive and well.
Absolutely.
And the drug is unimportant. I think that's what we have to remember about substance use disorder. The drug is unimportant
Yeah.
because marijuana, vaping, crystal meth, there's so many things that are going to make
Synthetic drugs are huge.
huge, that are going to come back around and bite us all in the butt again. You know, it's the disease of addiction that we have to deal with, and whatever that disease needs to facilitate healing in an individual, period. So you guys were just telling me about your wellness center, which I love because I think yoga is amazing. And as I shared with you, without my yoga practice, I don't live well. I need that. That's my hour to meditate and be, and you need to learn how to do that and be quiet with yourself.
Absolutely. So part of our program structure is that we do provide additional services separate from outpatient treatment, separate from 12-step fellowships. So for the women,
Do the meetings come into the home?
only every Monday they do.
Okay.
And then separate from that, they do attend 12-step meetings within the community.
Excellent.
So if there's, ever a time that somebody struggles with getting transportation, we also will assist with that.
Excellent.
But so in it, separate from 12-step meetings and outpatient, we do provide additional services, and that also falls under wellness services and holistic programs. So the women are able to go to yoga every Thursday at a local yoga studio. They also have a gym membership. The men also have Y12SR yoga that's brought into the actual house. Just last night, the men experienced singing bowl meditation. The women experienced it last week. So depending on what week it is, they have something going on. Every month, they all get a monthly schedule. So whether it be acupuncture, Reiki, they also have the option for private Reiki sessions, emotional freedom technique, which is also known as EFT. Aromatherapy. We also try to do at least one recreational activity a month. In addition to, they can always have like movie passes on the weekend. So last month, the women and men separately went to the escape room. And even on the way there to see, there was in the back, it was a bunch of younger gentlemen and then one of our older residents. And age doesn't matter. And it was just so amazing to see the dynamics and just being able to have fun in recovery and learning that process and like in early recovery, that you can have fun in recovery without the use of any foreign substances.
Yes, because they've forgotten how to have fun, how to play.
Yeah.
Really, it's just how to play, how to just go and be.
Yeah.
I don't need anything to make a complete idiot out of myself and just enjoy myself, because you know what? What other people think of me is none of my business.
Yeah.
So just enjoy
Absolutely.
life,
It's very
You're
true.
only going to
Yeah.
pass through once, so
I
make
like
it
that.
make it a fun ride. And really, what do you care what anybody thinks of you? It's none of your business.
Giving people an accepting environment, with their other peers, where no matter where, your background is, or, where you're coming from, your age, your life experiences, everyone is there with a common reason, and it's really an opportunity for people to feel part of and to feel like someone else, if for no other reason than they're both there to recover, so it's a really powerful experience for people
It is
to
a
be part of
powerful
that,
It's a
that peer
human
group.
experience, though, so I know, in this world with technology and everything else, and the lack of communication between human beings, and I think that's one of the maladies of society today. So to have people helping each other up, when you have 12 women in a room and you each share one idea, you leave with 12 ideas. But a lot of times in this society, we have to keep everything to ourselves because somebody could replace me, so I'm not sharing anything.
Yeah.
We've become cut off from each other.
And that's why we focus on that community aspect, where every Monday through Friday, all the houses have morning meditation where they meet together as a community and they do a morning meditation together, or even setting a daily goal for themselves that they share, amongst each other. And then we also, Monday through Thursday, they have community dinner together where they all sit down together as a community and they take turns, cooking throughout the
family.
week. Yeah, yep.
It's a family
Yep.
activity.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm one of 5 kids, so and I told you guys, I'll be moving, but when my parents passed away, I got the dining room table with the 8 chairs that we all sat at, and if that table could talk, the laughter and the fun and the love that happened at that table is so important because that's where it all happens.
Yep.
You know, playing cards, just talking, just being quiet, and you know, whatever it is you're doing. That's freedom.
Yep.
That's really, you know, you don't have to be entertaining all the time. To be alone in your own thoughts, and I think, you know, you need to be happy with yourself. Well, I'm never lonely when I'm by myself. You can feel lonely and be with a ton full of people, but it's your own acceptance of you. And that's what you're giving back to your peeps.
Yes.
So now tell me about the new grant.
Sure. So we
This time-
recently, yes, this is very exciting. So we were recently conditionally awarded the Empire State Supportive Housing Initiative from New York State. It's an initiative that came down from Governor Cuomo, where there's certain target populations that are underserved and underhoused in New York State. People seeking recovery being one of them. So we actually were conditionally awarded the grant for 30 units, which would be single occupancy units for people in recovery. Yes.
30 people, so you can get 5 houses with 6 bedrooms or whatever.
They would actually be single occupancy, so they would be either 1 bedroom or studio apartments. Yes.
Wow.
And the really special thing about this grant is that it's actually permanent supportive housing. So whereas the current situation with housing for people in recovery in New York State really is that it's meant to be transitional. You know, even for
Correct.
us, it's
Right.
a year usually max. But for this is actually a place where people can build a home long term. You know, this is their home for however long they need it. So that's really significant. And the other thing that's really special about
How do you
it,
pick that person though for it?
well, there's certain criteria that they would have to meet. It does follow a housing first model. You know what we were talking about earlier. How can someone get stable if they don't have a stable place to live? So part of the program will include supportive services like wrapped around as part of the housing program. So having a case manager, having a certified peer recovery advocate as part of the staff as well. Transportation, to start vocational services, educational services, things like that as part of the program. And the other thing that's really actually unique about it is that it's actually affordable housing. So as we know on Long Island and really throughout the country, the housing crisis and just the affordability of having a place to live is very significant. It is a very real barrier for people.
Yes.
So this is actually affordable housing. So the cost to the person living there would be capped at 30% of their income, no matter what that income is.
Okay.
And then the grant subsidizes the rest of, the cost that it would be to
That's
have the housing, the
amazing.
services, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So are you buying a building or how are you going to find these units?
We're in the process of, just finding the right property, finding the right, team, a developer, things like that to work with us to help the vision of the program come to life. So to bring everything really together to be able to actually launch the program within the next, 18 months or so, I would say.
Okay, well, I hope it's faster than that.
Yes.
Because I can imagine that meeting you guys, I would say it's going to be faster than that. I think
like
it
to
needs
manifest.
to be.
Yeah, we're
I think it needs
manifestors.
to be faster than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have such a population now that how do you get well when you're sleeping on a street corner?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's unacceptable. And it wouldn't happen with any other disease.
No.
So sometimes there's co-occurring, right, diagnosis.
Absolutely.
So that leads people to use substances to feel normal or vice versa.
Yeah.
So I'm going to grab a sip of water. So tell me more about how are you going to, what is your vision for it? Is it a building? Is it individual little homes?
It would be separated, probably still mixed units. Again, we are approved for 30 units. So in an ideal situation, it would be 2 separate properties.
Okay.
Again, it really depends. You know, with the Long Island real estate,
I know,
it's,
I
it
know,
really
it's
depends.
tough.
Yeah.
It depends on what's available in the market, you know, what's feasible with the grant, you know, what's the best model for the residents, you know. So definitely, you know, we know that we're required to have separate, you know, single occupancy units where it would be their own home, but just, you know, the logistics of will it be 2 buildings, will it be, you know, a single apartment building? We're still unsure.
I'm very
but
excited for
it's
you
very
guys.
exciting. Yes.
It's very exciting
It's very
because the two of you really, you're young women, and it's so refreshing to see you with such a vision to do such, it's really God-given work. That's all I can say, whether people believe in God or not. It's God's work that you're doing, really, and embracing a population that is underserved, you know, and giving hope to your residents and a leg up to feel like a human being again, that I am worthwhile. You know, at St. Christopher's, they have a saying, well, for them, it's a men's program, I am a man worthy of love and respect. And that is really just repeated to them and repeated to them because they've lost that vision for themselves. And that's what you give back to people. And that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That's a powerful statement,
Yeah.
you know, that you're a person worthy of love and respect. It
Yes.
seems so basic, but for so many people, that's
For
not
so-
how they feel.
No,
you
that's
know,
not how
it's not
believe.
how they
They
feel.
hate themselves.
Yeah.
They hate themselves when they come out and they become sober in whatever way. They realize they know what they've done. They do.
And I
So
think-
how can I love myself when I've done this?
I think, you know, for anybody coming into early recovery, you know, initially, like what happens, you know, I can't speak for everybody, but just being plagued with that guilt, that shame, that remorse, you know, just even having that outer body experience, you know, of feeling, you know, that shame, you know, of entering in somewhere, like if only they knew, you know,
Yeah.
of what I used to do or, you know, what I did or how I feel inside or the person that I used to be. You know, so again, early recovery, especially what you mentioned in the beginning, you know, for women, especially for women, for men too, but, you know, who have experienced like trauma.
Yeah.
Even just the trauma of active addiction alone.
Forget it.
Yeah.
What you go through for that. But I think, you know, when I speak to parents that have such guilt about how maybe they've treated their loved one, their child that's going through a disease, and you know, we can all, I always like to use the analogy, the rearview mirror is small for a reason. You know, you can't look backwards because you can't change the past. You need to learn from it. But you did the best job that you could at the moment in time that you were. So to beat yourself up over something, if you continue to make the same mistake, well then shame on you. But recognize it, learn from it, and how can I move forward in a healthier, you know, direction, always. For anybody, that's just a human experience. I think we just have to remember that. And treat other people right. What's the golden rule? Treat other people as you want to be treated.
Absolutely.
It doesn't really get too much crazier than that. It's it's pretty basic. So, you know, I always like to say now, especially by the grace of God, go I, because that could have been me at any point in life.
Yeah.
You know, choices that you make at every you know, corner.
Absolutely.
So I'm so proud of you guys.
Thank you.
You know, and Thomas's Hope. And I'm going to put it out there, and we are in the process of building the website. So, you know, anybody that's on Facebook that needs your information, we'll have your information up there.
Thank you.
But Thomas's Hope, I know we like to donate to when you have a resident that can't afford. So we'll put it out there to anybody else that would like to step up. And, you know, many families like to maybe donate money in memory of or in lieu of, and what a great cause that they could donate for is to provide housing for a month, for a week, for whatever the period of time, to give somebody that hand up,
And, you know, I just have to say thank you so much, you know, for the times that you have assisted some of our
It's my
residents.
pleasure.
With,
My
you know, getting
pleasure.
back on their feet and giving them, you know, just for someone that you don't even know, to know that someone is out there that cares about you enough
Yes.
to give you a shot at recovery and give you a shot at a program that,
And I
that can
love
help
that
them.
thought.
Yeah.
Because if somebody is just sitting there saying, I don't even know them, why would they believe in me? Because you're worth believing in. And maybe what I need to do, and I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to have to write like a little note to the person that we've given the scholarship to.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something they can hold on to.
Definitely.
And look back at and say, you know, I'm not just letting myself down. Look at all the people that have believed in me. I need to maintain, you know, myself, because people are depending on me. You know, and I think that's an important, not for guilt, not for shame, not for anything, but just to say, there are people that believe in me.
And it really does. It means a lot to those individuals. You know, it really does. Like when they're able to like look back on that, and again, like somebody took a chance. You know, somebody cared enough to give me this opportunity.
I remember, so I shared with you about Nassau County Medical Center, and my son and I were in there. And when I came in, the counselor said to my son, your mom is like Carol Brady from the Brady Bunch. Do you want to know how many people out there would kill to have your mom that would be here? And my son kind of took it for granted that I would always be there. And I always was there. But I always remembered that, not for people say, oh, well, it was a compliment. I said it wasn't the compliment. It was to remember that there are so many people that don't have that. I take it for granted because I always had it growing up. I, you know, assume that my kids know that I'm always going to be there for them and my family. But so many people walk this earth all by themselves. You know, that they don't have like that beautiful family surrounding them. So it's again, that human touch, you know, and in this day and age, that's probably not a good way to put it because people take it in a bad way. Do you also have any list of, you know, if someone can't come to your house, is there other houses that you recommend?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I always say, you know, just because another recovery house isn't like ours, that what sets us apart, there is no other recovery house that does what we do. You know,
Right.
we really are like more of a program that just offers more, you know, but there are other good like recovery housing that is out there. So we actually work off a referral list that we only refer to these houses.
Good.
You know, Seafield Services is always...
They run a great house. Yeah.
Seafield Services, and even in the Mastic area, you know, there's a couple of good houses
Excellent.
that are, you know, right in the community.
I'm going to promise you this, that I would love to come to one of your circles and just talk to the women and or talk to the men.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this week. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.